Thank you for tuning into the Realness Required Podcast. My name is Waldie.
And I'm Erikka.
On today's episode, we are going to talk about chakras. Now, why are we talking about chakras? What problem does talking about chakras solve?
Well, for me, I feel like the research that I've done and some of the books that I've read and just working on myself, chakras have a lot to do with the way you feel or the way you act. If you don't work on certain chakras, it could have a negative effect on your health or the way you feel. And so I thought that to myself, I'm like, that is some valuable information. And I wish I knew that early on in life. I wish I knew that in my 20s or even in my 30s, because the quicker that I work on some of the issues that are within each chakra, then my body would feel better. I would feel better mentally. And so I thought I would share that, or we talk about that, just so people can kind of get to thinking about it, maybe do their own research and kind of see what they can get from that.
So introduce the concept, kind of talk about our own personal stories or bring up our own personal stories related to that. Maybe give an overview.
Well, for me, I remember that we were talking about chakras and you mentioned it first. And so, and you were like, when I was telling you kind of what I was going through or how I was feeling, you were like, friend, I think you probably need to work on your chakras. And I said, well, which one in particular? And you said heart chakra. So when you said that to me, I'm like, is he trying to say I don't have a heart, or like I'm heartless, or I'm cold, or what is that saying? And so I wanted to do the research behind that. And so when I looked at certain books, I got a couple books on Amazon, but when I looked at certain books, it was saying if you deal with diabetes, because I am pre-diabetic, or if you have any heart problems, like if you've had a heart attack or anything like that in the past, then it would be related to your heart chakra. And what would cause that is any issues that you may have that you haven't resolved in that particular chakra. So just because it's heart chakra for me, I'm just going to kind of explain that a little bit. So if you have issues with your heart chakra, then that means that you have maybe some unresolved resentment, or maybe some unforgiveness there, or maybe you have a hard time having compassion for others, etc. So I had to look into that deeper and say, well, is that true? Does that apply to me? And so I did have to go down the line, maybe with some family members, some friends, and realize that I did have some resentment that I was holding on to. I thought that resentment and unforgiveness was the same, but it's not, because unforgiveness is like an action, meaning that you're choosing not to forgive a person.
Okay.
But resentment is when you're holding on to that anger or frustration or whatever that is that person caused to you, even though you may have chose to forgive them, you haven't let it go.
Right. It seems like forgiveness you do consciously, where resentment is more unconscious. Does that sound about right?
That may apply.
Okay.
Because I wasn't aware that I had resentment. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at some of the issues that I had growing up, maybe like towards my mom or a family member. And I had to realize that when they do something to me, it triggers that. Mm-hmm. And, whatever that issue was for me, it triggered it. And so if it's triggering it, then maybe I haven't let it go.
Now so this conversation about chakras came up a few months ago, right? And when you were talking about being pre-diabetic, or that having a history of that maybe in your family, or that being maybe a common diagnosis within your family, taking that into consideration, what diabetes is related to. And you know me, I'm the type of person, I'm going to Google everything.
Yeah.
So if you're saying like there's a medical something, I'm going to look it up and say what chakra is related to that. And then on top of that, just knowing what you want romantically, knowing that your ability to allow people to love you and love others is going to be connected to your heart chakra, because love, the heart, knowing little things about you without reading any books, really, because I feel like, I know enough to be dangerous in a conversation. I feel like that's where the conversation of chakras started with you and I, when you were talking about kind of like health stuff, and then and I already know some of your personal challenges related to like romance or
opening up to a person or being vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerability.
Just that whole thing. And so those issues are within that heart chakra.
Yes.
So, and you were telling me, you were like, friend, maybe you should, because it's a color associated with each chakra as well.
Yes.
And green is associated with the heart chakra. So he's like, friend, why don't you try like wearing more green or getting jade, like the stone or whatever. And so
it's not like wearing the color has like magic powers here.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like a symbol of an intention.
Or
right?
a symbol to the openness.
Correct.
You're open to it.
It's right. Like it again, which is your intention is I'm open to healing that chakra, or I'm opening. Healing isn't necessarily the best word. It's more about I'm open to getting that energy center, because that's really what a chakra is. It's 7 energy centers. I'm open to that energy center coming into flow or coming into balance. So it's not necessarily like, oh, you're broken and you need to be fixed. It's more, if things have gone so far as to we're having a medical issue, we have maybe some other emotional issues that are extensive or ongoing, then that's pointing to maybe something that needs to be worked on. Like if it's gotten that far, that's your red flag. Like, hey, you might want to pay attention. So you having had, things with vulnerability and relationship stuff and the pre-diabetes, you kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I'm thinking, oh, we can work on that. That's heart chakra stuff. Yeah. Let's wear green. That's kind of like setting an intention to work on that and bringing that vibration in. And I know for me, my chakra that I've had to work on the most, I would say, is the throat chakra, which has to do with self-expression and expressing your emotions. And I know, I think I've probably spoken on it in another episode, but for me, like, and it's interesting because all of this stuff converges. All of these topics that we've discussed kind of overlap.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think I described how when I'm not being authentic, it feels like I'm being choked almost. Like it feels like I'm not, when I'm not expressing myself authentically, it feels like I'm losing air or I'm being strangled. Well, that's the throat chakra, literally the throat chakra.
Yeah.
When my throat chakra does not feel balanced, I can feel it. It's a physical sensation, like for me, Yeah. Or if I have a strep throat or if I have a sore throat, that might be a slight kind of a slight manifestation of maybe I need to talk about something.
Because that's the physical that's the physical issue that is tied to the throat chakra. So when you're going through those, you're going to have a sore throat, or you may have thyroid problems later down the line if you're not dealing with something.
So before we get into all of the chakras and kind of describe each one, before you go ahead and describe each one, I think it's important to understand, we had another episode that was about energy. When we discussed that episode, we were more talking about how your intuition can pick up on a vibe, someone else's vibe, pick up on someone else's energy. I also mentioned that everything is energy. And the reason why I want to talk about energy in a different way in this context is because each chakra is an energy center. And the way that energy works, and the reason why we're talking about medical issues and emotional issues as it relates to these energy centers is because everything starts as energy before it is manifest. Before it is material, it's energy. Before you create something, it's a thought.
Yes,
so it's
it is.
immaterial before it is manifested. It's no different. So when we're looking at, oh, there's a thyroid issue, or oh, this person is on the verge of having like some sort of heart attack or heart issue or heart hypertension, whatever. Yeah. If we're at that place where it's manifested, there's an energetic component that is causing that is impacting that. And oftentimes people think, oh, well, if I get this surgery, it will resolve that issue.
Or take this medication.
It will resolve that issue. But it doesn't resolve the energetic component that is creating that physical ailment, right? So it's like, yeah, we can put a Band-Aid on the surface. Like we can, deal with the surface problem, but what's likely going to happen? Okay, you're going to probably end up getting another heart attack. Just because you got the bypass and it worked. I mean, I've had people in my family that have had another bypass after that because the energetic component was not resolved. Yeah. And I know personally, they had issues loving and accepting love. Now, they were the generation before me, like my uncles, but I don't know exactly what they went through as children. I don't know historically what they went through, but just seeing that is what they had to deal with medically. Yeah. I know that was an issue for them. And it just so happens their dad too. It was an issue for him too. My granddad had heart issues. My uncles had heart related issues or blood related issues, diabetes. Yeah. These were all things that they had to face, which again ties directly to the heart chakra. Their compassion for themselves, their compassion for others, their ability to accept love, to give love, them not knowing how to do that.
To love themselves.
That's right.
That has something to do with it too, to love yourself.
Yes.
So I just really had to dive into that for myself because you explaining it to me is one thing. But remember I told you I gotta read it for myself, study it for myself. I can't just take your word from it. For me not knowing anything about it. Sure. Like, because I've heard of chakras, but I always thought it was like, those crazy people with the chakras. Like I didn't.
Like they're doing yoga.
Yeah. So I always thought it was like that, and so I'm like, no, it's really not. And what kind of opened me up to it as well is because Carolyn Miss, and you mentioned her on the last episode, she mentions chakras as well. So I'm like, it's got to be something about these chakras that I need to look into because I've done everything that I know to do. I've went to several doctors and the physical part isn't going away. I'm still in that pre-diabetic stage and I work out enough. I eat right, so I'm like, what could it be? So
I remember that.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe this is something that I need to look into. And with me also picking up the book by Brianna West, she said she kind of went into resentment a little bit more. And when I read what she said about it, I'm like, Erikka, you have some unresolved resentment there towards some people, and you need to make that right. And what she suggests is that you talk to that person, but I feel like the person would be unwilling to talk about it because it's kind of when I bring it up, they just kind of say it's not true or deny it or whatever. So, or they're passive about it. So she suggested that maybe you can write a letter as if you were, and read it as if that person is sitting in front of you. So just put a chair in front of you and just get it all out and say what you need to say to that person to just let it go. And so I just had to start thinking about some different things or ways that I could let go of the resentment that I had toward people. And so I did that. I did that work. And
you did.
I did that work.
You did that exercise.
That she suggested.
Did you do the letter or did you do the chair?
It was both, because she said write a letter.
Okay.
But then read it.
Okay.
To the chair, like you're reading it.
I didn't know
to
you
the
did
person.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So, but I have still some more work to do, because there's other areas of other things, of course, within that heart chakra. But I got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so, but I knew that was something that was very evident at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was only because I was tying resentment and forgiveness as the same. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, I did forgive the person.
Right, for doing XYZ.
For doing whatever that was. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to talk to them. I'm able to be in the same room with them. I feel like if you don't forgive someone, you can't even be around that person. Mm-hmm. That's what I've always thought. So I'm like, well, I got to forgive them, because I want to maintain a relationship, whatever. But just finding out that any little thing that happens, it takes me right back to that place with that particular person. Anything that happens, it just takes me right back to a place. So if it's taking me right back to that place every time, that means that I have resentment toward that person in that area.
Right.
Period.
Like you have intellectually or mentally forgiven the person, like, for the action, but the resentment is tied to the emotion. Like the emotion you haven't let go of that emotional piece.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not like I think about it. I wasn't thinking about it every day or every time I saw the person. It wasn't that. It was like a trigger, though. Like when something came up or they said something a certain way, or they, slightly made me upset, it just takes me right back to that place. And so I just had to realize that, yeah, Erikka, you got some resentment stuff that you need to deal with. So if I would have known that, though, earlier, could I have just prevented the prediabetes altogether? Because I would have had that chakra pretty much worked out.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have issues with any of the other chakras. It was mainly that one. And it was several areas within that. It wasn't just one thing. It's not just resentment. So it's several things in that area. And my grandfather died of a heart attack, both of them. And my dad died of a heart attack. So I don't want to have heart issues when I get older, because I'm still harboring or holding on to stuff when I know what I can be doing to fix that.
It makes sense. Not that it's hereditary, like, oh, it's in your DNA. I'm not saying that. But if your parents raise you and your parents, they're going to pass their stuff on to you. So if your mom and dad have a heart chakra that's not in balance, or if your mom and dad have a heart chakra that is out of whack, then you don't know what a balanced heart chakra, how that operates.
Oh, no. Yeah.
You're not aware of
I didn't know.
They can't teach you because they don't have that to give you, right? So it may not be hereditary, but that those skills are passed to the next generation.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it can show up pretty rampantly in an entire family. An entire family has issues related to that.
Yeah. But they do use the term, oh, it's hereditary, or, oh, if your mom or your dad have those issues, then you're going to have those issues too. And I refuse to believe that. Yeah. I refuse. I also am a person that don't want to take medication. If I'm talking to a doctor and they're telling me I'm getting close to something, I'm going to do everything in my power to get out of that situation so that I don't have to take medication. Multiple people in my family have high blood pressure, or they have full-blown diabetes, or they have...
the diabetes is related to the heart chakra.
Correct.
And the heart issues are related to that.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Or they have high cholesterol, or they have thyroid issues, or it's just a number of things. But I don't have any of those things. Mm-hmm. So it's hereditary, and if this person have it, you're going to have it. I just simply refuse to believe.
Right, and it takes away your agency to have control or autonomy of your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to say, oh, it's in our family. So it gives you, it's almost like you're saying that to let yourself off the hook, to not have to do the work, or not have to,
Yeah. But a lot of people say, oh, well, it just runs in my family. So they just get on the medication.
And I'm not saying that even it's a laziness either, because the whole reason why we're having this conversation is because people don't realize that it's energetic first. There's an energetic component, and it's the energetic component that is going to change what manifests. Once that's in flow, or once that's unblocked, that chakra is back in balance again, the issue will resolve. It's kind of like when you have negative thoughts, you live a negative life. You start having positive thoughts, you start having a positive life.
Yes. You will see the outcome.
The thought creates the outcome. It's energy before it's manifest.
Yeah.
So let's not focus on putting a Band-Aid on the issue or resolving the symptoms. Let's focus on the energetic component that is at the source of creation.
That's behind that, yes.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, and I'm not trying to call anybody out.
Yeah.
So I'll just use myself as
Please.
an example. I smoked for 10 years. And smoking immediately, I think, throat chakra. I told you if I had any chakra that I needed to work on, it was the throat chakra. I smoked from 18 to 28. When I look back at that time and where I am now, I'll be 38. Wow. It'll be 10 years that I quit smoking. Wow. I'll be 38 this year.
Okay.
So, and the year, in case you guys aren't aware, the year is 2025. It'll be 10 years since I quit smoking. And I think about that time that I smoked and what the throat chakra, when it's out of whack, or what that could have been saying, like what energetically was going on for me. The throat chakra is related to expressing yourself. It's related to using your voice.
Personal expression.
Yes, personal expression.
Yes.
When I think of me during that time, it does feel like I suppressed. And it's not like I was aware of this. I didn't know about the chakras at that time. Yeah. But looking back, I was suppressing something. I was suppressing my personal expression, as you put it, or expressing my feelings with my voice, which again is personal expression. Yeah. Telling someone how I feel, sharing my truth. All of that is related to the throat chakra. And although I had a YouTube channel at that time, and I did a song, like I was still expressing myself, but clearly not at the capacity.
That's what I was going to say.
That I could have been.
Yes.
Right?
Because I even told you when you were smoking, I'm like, friend, that does not match who you are at all.
Yeah. And you're not the first person to say that. Even when I tell people, oh, I used to smoke, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I cannot imagine you smoking cigarettes. I used to smoke cigarettes. Yeah. People can't believe it. I was able to quit smoking with, it was a medication. Thank goodness it worked. But I bring that up is to say, I know a lot of people that do smoke. And whether it's vaping, whether it's smoking cigarettes, I'm sure if you're smoking weed, that's still related to the throat chakra too. Yeah. And I would ask myself, or if you're listening, I would ask, what am I suppressing? Like, what am I not sharing or saying, or what truth am I not telling? Like, how am I holding myself back as far as my personal expression?
But what if someone doesn't know how to convey something and therefore they don't say anything? What would you suggest to someone like that? Because some people just have an issue expressing themselves because they don't know what to say. Not that they're trying to hide something or they're scared to say it. They just don't know how to say it.
I think just start saying something. It doesn't have to come out correct. It's not about it coming out correct. Like, you'll finesse it the more practice you have. So
you just have to start saying it first.
Yeah,
like
you have to start
speaking your expressing.
Start expressing yourself. Yeah. Start speaking your truth. Start being honest. And I think the more honest you are, because I do think it has to deal with honesty, because that's personal truth. That's the more honest you are and direct you are with that, I think that will start to resolve. That issue with the throat chakra will start to resolve. I tend to think, just like thinking of the action and thinking of when I did it, it felt like I was putting a lid on myself. Like there was this constant anxiety. Like I was almost as if I was constantly trying to be on my best behavior. And when I think about that, it's like I'm curbing my own personal expression to make other people comfortable. So where are you doing that? And if you're thinking, oh, well, I express myself just fine, and you're smoking, then it's like, maybe it's being expressed in a way that is still out of balance. What if you're like over expressing it to where it's not clear, or it's not considerate?
But if you're still smoking, it could still also be other areas too. It may not be that you don't have maybe like personal expression. It could be that you're not following your dreams.
Okay, so let's start at the root chakra.
Okay.
And then if we have anything to add to any of them, we'll elaborate on them. There's 7.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you can start.
Do you want me to do the colors and stuff? So
no, you can start. We'll just start at the root.
Yeah, the root chakra is just like basic survival, being, family. The sacral plexus chakra, that's like your sexuality, your creativity. Solar plexus chakra is self-esteem, power, that type of thing. Heart chakra is love, compassion. Throat chakra is communication. That's the big one. And third eye chakra is intuition. And the crown chakra is the top, and that's spirituality. There's a physical thing that's tied to each one of these chakras, but there's also emotional stuff that's tied to these chakras.
Okay.
So if you're struggling with depression or back pain, or you have weight problems, then that's probably, you need to start at the root chakra.
So the root chakra is at the base of your spine. Is that where it's found? Because each energy center is in like a place in the body, or
yes,
at least that's what
root
they say.
is at the bottom, and it works its way up.
Okay.
So root is at the bottom, and then
the color
crown,
for that one is red.
The color for that one is red. Yeah.
Which is interesting because when you think red, automatically you think of like blood, you think of survival, you think of war, you think of, and when you're in a survival state, energetically, those issues are going to come up.
Yes.
Medically.
Yes.
And did you mention the emotional issues as well?
Well, no, I didn't mention the emotional for the root chakra. For the root chakra, the emotional issues with your family, issues with like feeling safe, the ability to provide for yourself, like the necessities for yourself, the ability to stand up for yourself. All of those things are tied in the root chakra.
What's interesting, I think there's a lot of people in the root chakra. I think there's a lot of people with an imbalanced root chakra, but by design, politically, by design, when you think of communities that are economically lacking or economically suppressed, I mean, we all probably think of a ghetto, or we think of a trailer park. Like we think of these communities in our cities, in our towns, in our states, and everywhere. And those communities are groups of people living in that state of an imbalanced root chakra. That's why it is about survival. That's why there is a lot of aggression. There can be a lot of aggression because when you're in a state of survival, you're trying to protect at this little piece that you have, because what if it's taken away from you? Like, you're in that state energetically, right? I mentioned that political aspect because I think when you're in a state of survival and with an imbalanced root chakra, you can be like controlled, I think, by
I see what you're
political
saying.
Because
you feel like that's a savior.
Correct.
You feel like they're here to save me, or
that's right,
they're here to help my life become better. But again, it's not about the external person. It's about the internal. You have to work on yourself from the inside first.
That's right.
That's the only thing that's going to make your life better.
That's right. Changing the energy of I have enough. When you know you have enough, then you're not in a state of survival. You're not in a state of lack. Well, how do you know that you have enough? Well, it's an energetic shift. It's an energetic knowing that everything's going to be provided for me. There's always a way. Maybe you bring in a little spirituality to help with that.
Yeah. Ask God, what is it that I need to be doing to make my life better? Yeah. He'll give you direction. He'll give you the direction that you need to go. If it's get a different type of job, if it's learn a different trade, if it's connect with a certain group of people, whatever it may be, to set yourself in a better position to be able to financially provide for yourself and your family if you're taking care of people. So, but it starts with you. And then the sacral plexus, like if you're having any pelvic pain, bladder issues, kidney problems, then that is going to be the chakra that you need to work on.
And that's related to sex too. So if
that is your sexuality or creativity. Yeah. So
right.
Impotence, like all of that is in there if you're having issues with that.
Or and it being out of balance could mean it's overactive or it's underactive. Out of balance could mean either. So maybe if you suppress your sexuality or if you are overusing your sexuality, it's like, what's going on there? Something's going on there. So you just have to be aware of your own actions, how that each one is kind of operating. Does it feel like it's operating in balance? Does it feel like it's something's being suppressed? I think that's what's key when talking about each chakra. Does it feel in balance, or is there something real here that feels suppressed, or does it feel overused?
Because if you start to have any of the emotional issues that's tied to it or physical, then you should immediately go to, okay, I'm off balance somewhere.
Energetically, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I overusing it in this area? Am I underusing it? Where is that off at? Mm-hmm. And, because the color for sacral plexus is orange. And if you have any guilt or blame, money issues, you have a control issue, that type of stuff, that falls in that plexus. So if you start to work on that and maybe think, okay, well, maybe I do have an issue with money. Maybe I do have an issue with control. Mm-hmm. I need to look into that. Let me dial back on that. Let me see what's going on there. So again, start to look within yourself instead of looking at external things,
right?
Or getting external things to cope or to fix or to help.
If everything starts out as energy first, by the time it is external, the energy already created that. That's already done, right? So you have to start at the energy source and what is causing that. Allow the thing, whatever the thing is, to be the trigger to look at the energy source of that. Mm-hmm. What's creating that? Mm-hmm. That I have some power to influence or impact or change.
Yeah. And then the solar plexus, that has to deal with, like, if you have any ulcers or bulimia, fatigue, liver dysfunction, then it's going to fall within there. And then also, like, the emotional stuff that comes with that is trust or fear, self-esteem, your care for your own self, that type of stuff falls within there. Like personal honor, like you don't honor yourself, that falls in that particular chakra.
Or self-respect, I guess, would be in
self-respect, yes, that's part of that as well. And then we already talked about heart chakra, but some of the issues with that is like heart attack, lung disease, high blood pressure, breast cancer, like not cancer period, but breast cancer specific. And then the emotional issues is like resentment, loneliness, forgiveness, hope, trust. Trust is a big one.
Trust is a big one.
That's one I have to work on still. But trust, compassion. Because when you first told me I needed to work on my heart chakra, I was like, is he trying to say I have no heart or something? And so I was kind of going back and forth with you a little bit because I'm like, but friend, I have compassion for people. And you were like, yeah, but you still have issues with trust or loving, if it's myself or someone else, there's a barrier there that's preventing me from opening up or putting walls down or, trusting someone
Right, because you've talked or we've had conversations where you'll tell a story or I'll tell you my point of view on the person or I'll share what I did in a certain situation and you'll say, oh, I would never do that because you're suspicious of the person. Like you have suspicions of their intentions. Yes. And so speaking to trust.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's what comes to mind is like how I will act a certain way and you'll be like, oh, I would never do that. But it seems like it's usually related to I wouldn't do that because what are they going to do?
Well, because I don't trust what the person is going to do with that information.
Correct.
That's pretty much it. I even told you, like, there's certain stuff I'll never put in writing. It's, I don't send pictures, like nude pictures and stuff like that, because you just never know. I cannot trust what that person is going to do with that. You can love them today, and a year from now, when things go south, I'm absolutely not going to do it. Now, if I send it, it's not going to have my face in it, or no marks, no body marks where people can tell, like in case it hit the net one day, to be able to say, oh, that is Erikka because I see this particular mark, on her body or whatever. That's not going to happen. So I'm probably not going to send it at all. Yeah. But let's just say I'm feeling spicy one day. It's definitely going to be without the face.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Now,
it's just not happening.
No, I mean, I understand that. Even though I'm not very precious about my body, I'm not precious about like sex or my body. That's just how I am. Like, you want to see, I'll send you the picture. Like, it's no big deal. I look good.
Yeah.
And have fun with that. But more, I feel like, I think the more interesting take on this trust issue is, remember when I left the voice memos?
Oh,
girl, when I left the voice memos, telling somebody, 20 voice memos, telling somebody how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know what came over me to send 20 voice memos within iMessage.
Over a minute long each.
No. Oh, was it over a minute long each?
Yes.
2 minutes each.
It was over.
It was like basically you couldn't exceed 2 minutes per voice.
So you let it run out each time.
Basically. And so I said 14, right?
Yeah.
I did like 14? Yeah.
It was a lot.
Something like that. Anyway.
It was a lot.
I felt the need to do that because I didn't want to talk on the phone, but I wanted to get everything I wanted to say out. And I could speak quicker than I could type, right? So that's why I did that. And you said, I would never do that. I don't even know who does that. One, who even does that? Yeah. Who even thinks of that? Two, I would never do that because what are you going to do with those?
Yes.
Going back to the trust.
My immediate thought would be, so I'm the type of person that thinks things through. Like, I can't just lead off of, this is what I want to do right now. Let me do it. I think about it and I'm like, Erikka, if you send 14 voice memos, what is this person going to do with that? They're going to share it with all their friends. They might blow your spot up. They might put it on social media. You just never know. Like, look at this idiot telling me, I don't even feel this way, and they telling me all of this stuff. So I just don't know what the other person is going to do. And because I've been burned in the past, not in that way, but still, it still hurts the same. Any way that you've been betrayed or someone has broken your trust, it hurts the same, regardless
but I feel like,
of what it is.
Isn't that about giving the other person power? Like, if I'm just being authentic to me, I don't even need to factor in trust at all.
But I thought it was very brave of you to do it. The issue was I was not going to do it.
Right.
That was I just do not see a world where I would speak and say something for 2 minutes long, 14 times.
Yeah.
And trust that the person on the other end is not going to do anything with it. Mm-hmm. At some point in time. They might not do anything with it at that time because they love me and, thank you for sending me this, whatever. But when we fall out.
But I stand by what I said. So you can't do anything with it.
You may be right, but I do not think that way. I am always thinking what the other person is going to do with that. So therefore, it makes
Girl, that was my throat chakra.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm getting this
you were
out.
Working on it, correct?
Yes, like
you were doing what you needed to do.
Yes.
But for me, that just was not going to work for me. So I would not do it that way. I would still do the same thing, get what I need to get out with the person, but it's probably going to be face to face, where I say what I need to say. They can't do anything with that. They can tell someone what I said, but there's no proof. Mm-hmm. It's just your word against mine. I just look at things that way. I'm never going to do anything that puts me in a compromising position because someone else chooses to do something with that. That's all. So yeah.
Trust.
Exactly. And what did I say? I'm still working on trust. Didn't I say that? So give me some grace.
Yes.
Because I'm still working on it.
Grace, yes.
So now we're on the throat chakra. So the throat chakra, if you have sore throat or mouth ulcers or like thyroid issues, that's related to the throat chakra. And that is if you are having issues with following your dreams, personal power to create, capacity to make decisions, and then the one that you were dealing with the most, which is the personal expression.
Yeah.
So that would fall in the line with that. And the color for that is light blue.
Okay.
And then the third eye, if you're having any problems, like if you have deafness, blindness, severe headaches, seizures, brain tumors, that has to do with that particular chakra. And the emotional stuff that's tied to it is being able to tell the truth.
Oh, that one's truth.
That one is the heart chakra is trust. I don't trust what someone is going to do with certain things.
But I thought the throat chakra was like
No.
the self-expression was like expressing your truth.
It is personal expression. That can be truth.
Right, like they can kind of
That's speaking your truth.
That's
but
speaking your
telling
truth.
the truth and speaking your truth
That's
is
true.
a little different.
That's true.
Yeah. So the third eye is actually telling the truth.
So that's like inner. That's like telling the truth to yourself.
Or telling
right?
the truth to others. Not necessarily your truth, telling the truth, period. Regardless of if it has to do with you or not.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not really about. It's not the component of self-expression.
Yes.
It's more about the principle.
Yes,
of truth.
of telling the
truth.
Yes.
I understand.
And then feelings of adequacy, emotional intelligence, all of those things are tied to the third eye. And then lastly, the crown chakra. And if you're having any problems with like alienation, confusion, energetic disorders, then you may want to look at working on that chakra. And the emotional stuff that's tied to that is the ability to trust life itself, just life.
Which you said that there's a spiritual
Yeah.
sort of dysfunction.
That is your spirituality.
If there's like
Yeah.
the spirituality is an imbalance,
Yeah.
it's going to impact that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And then like your values, having courage, faith, inspiration, devotion, any of those things is going to tie into that particular chakra. So if you're having problems in any of those areas, and the color for that is purple, white, or gold.
Okay. The search bar is your friend. I am
Yeah.
constantly like, oh, what is this? What is the chakra related to this?
Yeah.
And then, I explore that on my own. And
Yeah.
I think the key takeaway here is if something has become a physical, as manifested physically, or it's an emotional obstacle that you're running into, I would ask what chakra that might be related to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might point you in a direction where you could start to do some self work on that.
Yeah. And some things that can help is like yoga, meditation, if you're into crystals, getting the type of crystal that's tied to the chakra, you can
Wearing the color.
Or
bringing that color in.
Yeah, bringing that color in, like you get some jewelry that's that color or something like that, because that is representing like the openness that you have toward
Working on it.
working on
Or
it.
getting it in balance.
Yes.
Okay.
Essential oils,
Okay.
that helps too.
When we think about intuition and we talk about energy, and I've mentioned how all of these ideas overlap and converge, and you brought up on our first episode, your intuition told you to go to the gym more. It's like, is all of this speaking on the same thing? It's like, did your intuition really say that about the going to the gym so that some chakras could get in balance? Because there's a physical activity component to that where it's
Yeah.
like, girl, you need more physical activity.
Yeah.
So that could have been the root chakra. Because I
Yeah.
think the root chakra is related to more like physically
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
like positive or doing something healthy, active with
Yeah.
your body. So it's just interesting to think about. Like you kind of can, these are all building blocks to fill in some of the blanks.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's why I thought this episode was going to be important for others. Because
Yes.
it helped me.
What would you suggest if folks' curiosity has been piqued by this conversation related to chakras? What would you suggest they do?
Well, to just do more research on it then.
Yeah.
If you want to chat GPT it, or, if you want to get some books, on it. If you want to visit like a store that's got like the crystals or that's got like the, the bracelets, and they give you like an explanation of what each one of them will work on, like, whatever you're dealing with, emotional state that you're in, just awakening the curiosity about it. Mm-hmm. So just find out more information on it like I did, and now I'm more open to it than I was.
And you're thinking like you said at the very beginning in the introduction, the sooner I knew this, the sooner I would be in a better position to where this hasn't manifested as pre-diabetes or other things.
Yeah.
So it's passing along the information to help you get to it sooner than later.
And do with it what you please.
Yeah.
What information you take from this that you need, take it, and what you don't need, leave it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That wraps up our conversation on chakras. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope some curiosity was piqued in this conversation. If you have any questions for us or have a situation that you're going through and you would like our advice, email us at advice@realnessrequired.com. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with anybody you think that this topic would help. And until then,
bye, guys.